tell the truth and nothing but the whole truth. Not the proof.
While city officials, state agencies, white liberals, and sober-minded Negroes stand idly by, a group of Negro dissenters is taking to street corner step ladders, church pulpits, sports arenas, and ballroom platforms across the United States to preach a gospel of hate that would set off a federal investigation if it were preached by Southern whites. What are they saying? Listen.
I charge the white man with being the greatest liar on earth. I charge the white man with being the greatest drunkard on earth. I charge the white man with being the greatest swine eater on earth, yet the Bible forbids it. I charge the white man with being the greatest gambler on earth. I charge the white man, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, with being the greatest murderer on earth. I charge the white man with being the greatest peacebreaker on earth. I charge the white man with being the greatest adulterer on earth. I charge the white man with being the greatest robber on earth. I charge the white man with being the greatest deceiver on earth. I charge the white man with being the greatest troublemaker on earth. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I ask you, bring back a verdict of guilty as charged.
The indictment you have just heard is being delivered over and over again in most of the major cities across the country. This charge comes at the climax of a morality play called The Trial. The plot, indeed the message of the play, is that the white man has been put on trial for his sins against the black man. He has been found guilty. The sentence is death. The play is sponsored, produced by a Negro religious group who call themselves the Muslims. They use a good deal of the paraphernalia of the traditional religion of Islam, but they are fervently disavowed by Orthodox Muslims. These homegrown Negro American Muslims are the most powerful of the black supremacist groups. They now claim a membership of at least 250,000 Negroes. Their doctrine is being taught in 50 cities across the nation. Let no one underestimate the Muslim.
I was born in Mississippi, in the United States, and I am the product of my heredity and education and the society in which I was raised. And I have a vested interest in that society, and I, along with 1 million other white Mississippians, will do everything in our power to protect that vested interest. It's just as simple as that.
In 1954, the Citizens Council was established in the Delta, the northwest section of the state, where blacks outnumbered whites. The council's purpose, to preserve white political power by opposing integration. Council chapters soon spread across the state.
Within 4 years, the Citizens Council was powerful enough that in the election of 1959, it threw its support openly and actively behind the candidacy of a damage suit lawyer named Ross Barnett, not one of the world's most successful politicians up to then, and saw him elected over a supposed moderate who was himself a segregationist, but with a quieter voice than Ross Barnett. And from 1959 until 1963, in the Barnett administration, the Citizens Council was the state, and the state effectively on matters racial was the Citizens Council.
Bankers, politicians, and owners of businesses joined the Citizens Councils throughout the South. They punished people who supported integration or black voting rights by foreclosing mortgages, firing workers, or refusing loans to farmers. And they used their influence to push through laws that would ensure continued white domination.
They have their own parochial schools, like this one in Chicago, where Muslim children are taught to hate the white man. Even the clothes they wear are in sharp contrast to American dress, like these two Negro children going to school. Wherever they go, the Muslims withdraw from the life of the community. They have their own stores, supermarkets, barbershops, restaurants. Here you see a progressive, modern, air-conditioned Muslim department store on Chicago's South Side. Their story of hatred for the white man is carried in many Negro newspapers. Here you see their minister, Malcolm X, proudly displaying 5 of the biggest Negro papers in America. Papers published in Los Angeles, New York, Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Newark. Negro politicians, regardless of their private beliefs, listen when the leaders of the black supremacist movement speak. Here you will hear Elijah Muhammad introduced by Minister Malcolm X, the Muslims' New York leader and ambassador at large for the movement. The good news that Minister X talks about here is the coming rise of the black man and the fall of the white man.
Everyone in the church, we used to sing the song, "Good news, the chariot is coming." Is that right or wrong? But what we must bear in mind, that what's good news to one person is bad news to another. While you sit here today, knowing that you have come to hear good news, you must realize in advance what's good news for you might be bad news for somebody else. Right. What's good news for the sheep might be bad news to the wolf.
The good news for the black man is that he is on the verge of recapturing his position as ruler of the universe. The bad news for the white man is that his long and wicked reign will shortly be over. And following this introduction, Elijah Muhammad, leader of the Muslims, speaks.
The Christian religion has failed. Your leaders of that religion has failed. Now the government of America has failed you. You have no justice coming from no one.
Progress of the revolution has increased at a geometric rate in the last few months, particularly since the Negro leaders themselves have displaced white liberals in charge of the entire movement. This grew out of a policy that was adopted by the Negro leaders at a so-called summit conference at Arden House of Columbia University last Thanksgiving, where the entire Negro movement in the United States was identified with the movement for African nationalism in Africa. This is a development of extreme significance, I think, because it opens up the possibility for non-white domination of the United States through 3 means. 1, through the mechanism of the United Nations. 2, through the Kennedy administration's increasing tendency to surrender our national sovereignty. And 3, through massive colored immigration, which is favored by liberal elements in this country. It seems to me that this heightened pace of the revolution results from integration itself, for under segregation there was no such disturbance as this. And this is not entirely unreasonable, because these people have found, through encouragement of the President and the Attorney General, that it pays to get out in the streets and demonstrate and carry on. And I would predict that if the civil rights bills pass, it will mean further, more violent demonstrations. The strange thing is, and this is a great pity, that this entire integration movement is based on false legal grounds. The grounds being the so-called Supreme Court school integration decision of May 17, 1954. In the Stell case in Savannah, Georgia, which was decided recently, uncontradicted, unrefuted testimony showed that the factual basis of the Supreme Court decision was entirely wrong. The outcome of all this, I think, is to hasten a showdown as to whether the United States will remain a predominantly white nation with Western cultural values, or whether it will become increasingly African.
I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the whole truth. Not the proof.